social connectedness is one of those things that helps keep people safe and healthy and more resilient when pressures come just through their lives or through the environment, through different circumstances that they face. Relationships is the building blocks, and so it's events like this where we get to know each other, we get to know people that we don't normally talk to, all with the shared intention of addressing social connections and this poly crisis.
Coming from a family that is not from Vancouver and not from Canada is that we have a bit of a culture of a closed door. We don't have a culture where it's necessarily socially acceptable to walk into our neighbor's unit or knock on their door for help with something. And we don't have a culture of leaning on each other and leaning on other people to help support us.
Social connections are critical to having communities survive, adapt, and thrive in the case of all kinds of challenges and changes. But I want to take that further and really think about how we build not just social connections, but also social capital, so communities can come together to advocate for their needs in all kinds of different challenges, changes, and contexts.
I think a lot of our work for those in the health and social service sector is with folks who face multiple systemic barriers. There's this sort of diversity of interventions that are going to be needed for different people along that housing continuum. How do we build socially connected, climate resilient housing? From a public health lens, I would put so many of those issues people are working on that pathway between housing and health.
We are the grassroots. We are the boots on the ground, really bringing it hyper-locally, connecting with neighbors by knocking on their doors and bringing them together and creating those networks of mutual support and care in our buildings, city blocks, and in the neighborhood. We found that cookies around holiday season really works, or bringing everyone together for neighborly barbecue during summertime. It takes a little bit of courage, but the invitation is always welcome because we all wired for connection.
Housing policy in and of itself really needs to be shaken up a bit in order to ensure that we have a diversity of spaces available for a diversity of residents in our city. We can't all be the same.
So financial institutions play a role in terms of how they can evolve their underwriting and risk appetites such that they are seeing projects that are addressing the social infrastructure or essential infrastructure as a benefit and aligning with the needs of the community.
There's no one-size-fits-all program. You really have to be flexible in this work, listen to the residents, the neighbors, and see what would work best for that situation.
I'm inspired and excited to see the range of work already happening in this field. We just need to find ways to go deeper and to find opportunities to scale these even further.
When we're developing a new building, when you're doing a retrofit, the people who are gonna live there, or in a retrofit case already live there, they need to lead the charge. Sit down in a room with them and ask them, here's the bare bones of what we're gonna do. What do you want to see? What is gonna be useful to you?
The important thing about the Hey Neighbor Collective is that it brings together all the people who are necessary in terms of making that transformational change to disrupt the status quo that we're seeing where health and housing aren't necessarily integrated.
The City of Vancouver in February 2025 endorsed a new older person strategic framework, and that framework actually has embedded in it a strategic objective around building social connections in multi-unit residential buildings where there's a high proportion of older adults, by naming the importance of building these social connections right where seniors live.
If you do want to be more actively involved in the Hey Neighbor Collective and maybe this movement, we really encourage you to come and chat with us. And not just necessarily about financial support, but also doing the work, right? We're not an organization, we're a collective. So if you want to get more involved in doing this, doing this with us and together, then we'd be really happy to chat more about that.
The biggest takeaway for me is not to get overwhelmed, but thinking of it as we're in it for the long haul, like we have to think long term, and what is the first small step that we can do together to point us in the same direction. So what are those small wins, and that sort of accumulates over time, and it'll add up to a big impact.
We have what it takes right now to really move the dial on these issues that are so important.
Coming together with this symposium is a wonderful idea, and I hope that it continues, because I can see this growing and growing and growing and being a wonderful, wonderful thing.